Love has always been one of the sweetest mysteries of life. It can lift us to the highest joy, yet it can also bring us to the depths of sorrow. Sometimes it fills us with light, and other times it leaves us with wounds that take years to heal. Carl Jung, the great depth psychologist, reminded us that love is never only about the bond between two people. It is also a mirror of the soul, a path that leads us back to ourselves. Every person we meet, every relationship we experience is not random. Behind it lies something within us, waiting to be seen, waiting to be healed, waiting to be embraced. The first lesson begins with this truth. When we fall in love, we may believe we are seeing another person clearly, as if they were the long-awaited answer to our search. But in reality, what we are seeing is our own unconscious reflected in them. The beloved becomes a mirror. In their smile, in their voice, in their presence, we encounter hidden desires, fears of being abandoned, wounds we tried to bury long ago. This is why love feels both enchanting and frightening. It reveals more of ourselves than we ever expected. Instead of asking only, "Why are they like this?" Jung invites us to ask, what part of me is being awakened in their presence? Every relationship, then, is not just companionship, but also an invitation to deeper self-understanding. And now we come to the second lesson. Jung teaches us that no one else can ever truly make us whole. Yet so often, people step into relationships with the secret hope that the other will mend their emptiness, take away their loneliness, or erase the pain of the past. In doing this, we place a burden on them too heavy to carry, asking them to be our rescuer, our missing half. But this is not love. This is dependency, fear disguised as devotion. True love does not say, "I need you to survive." It says, "I am already whole within myself, and from that wholeness, I choose to walk with you." Consider Emily, a young woman living in New York. For years, she rushed from one relationship to another, believing that the right man would finally save her from loneliness. Each time she was abandoned, she collapsed, empty and lost. Eventually, she entered therapy and faced her hidden sadness, the childhood wounds she had carried for so long. She rediscovered her creativity, strengthened her friendships, and learned to value her own presence. Slowly, Emily found that she was whole on her own. When she later entered a new relationship, everything was different. She was no longer desperate to be rescued. She was ready to share. And that is what Jung meant. Love flourishes when we find inner wholeness first. Only then is it built not on fear of being alone, but on the joy of truly being together. The third lesson is one that every couple eventually encounters. In the beginning, love feels sweet, effortless, even magical. But as time passes, the early enchantment begins to fade, and then the shadow emerges. We start to see not only the beauty of the other person, but also their flaws, their fears, their weaknesses. Jung explained that this is not a sign that love is failing. It is the natural unfolding of intimacy. Love is not only the meeting of light, but also the meeting of two shadows. When this happens, the person we love may awaken in us the very parts we tried to hide. Their jealousy may call forth our insecurity. Their silence may echo our fear of abandonment. Their anger may stir up our own suppressed rage. And so many people, when faced with this stage, conclude that the relationship has ended. But Jung reminds us, this is not the death of love. This is the invitation to deeper love. To love is to be willing to face not only the light in the other, but also the darkness they reveal in us. It is never about eliminating the shadow. The real question is, can we make room for both light and darkness in ourselves and in the one we love? Love that is fragile breaks under this pressure. But love that is real can hold both. It can look into the shadow and still say, I choose you. Think about Anna and Mark, a couple from Denver. In the first year of their marriage, everything felt easy, as if they were perfectly matched. But then stress from work, family conflicts, and unresolved insecurities began to surface. Anna realized she had deep fears of being abandoned, fears that made her cling too tightly. Mark realized he struggled with anger, with shutting down whenever he felt criticized. At first, they thought their love was falling apart. But through therapy, they came to see that these shadows were not the enemy. They were opportunities. As they learned to talk openly about their fears, they grew closer, not further apart. Their love deepened precisely because they faced the shadow together. The fourth lesson follows naturally from this, and it is the lesson of boundaries. Many people imagine that true love means sacrificing endlessly, giving everything, even losing themselves for the other. But when we lose ourselves, love is no longer love. It becomes possession. Every soul needs its own sacred ground, its own space of freedom. Jung warned that when love ignores boundaries, it becomes suffocating. But when love respects boundaries, it becomes a sanctuary. Boundaries are not walls to keep someone out. They are doors that allow closeness without collapse, intimacy without the loss of self. To say no when necessary, to protect your own energy, to nurture your individuality. These are not signs of selfishness. They are the foundations of a lasting love. Two halves do not make a whole. Two whole people standing side by side create a love that is both strong and free. So the question becomes, where do I end and where does the other begin? And can I honor that line so that love does not become a prison but a place of freedom? David, a man from Texas, learned this truth the hard way. For years, he believed that devotion meant erasing himself. He said yes to everything his wife asked, abandoned his hobbies, and silenced his own needs. Outwardly, it looked like sacrifice, but inwardly, resentment grew. Through counseling, David began to reclaim small parts of himself, playing guitar again, meeting old friends, expressing his feelings honestly. He feared his wife would see this as selfishness, but instead she said, I feel closer to you now than ever. I can see the real you again. Their marriage became stronger because David rediscovered his boundaries. And that is the paradox of love. When we hold on to ourselves, we actually have more to give. The fifth lesson is one of the hardest to accept because it asks us to face the fact that the people we love most often hurt us the most. Their words cut deeper than anyone else's. Their absence feels heavier than any stranger's silence. Jung explained that this happens because love touches our oldest wounds. The beloved becomes the mirror of our childhood pain, our forgotten longing, and our buried fears. When they turn away, we feel the echo of abandonment. When they criticize us, we hear the familiar voice that once told us we were not enough. When they withdraw, the loneliness of our early years rises again. This is why love feels so dangerous, because it awakens what we tried so hard to hide. And yet Jung also called it sacred, because only by touching these wounds can we begin to heal them. It is tempting to say, you hurt me. But the truth is that the pain was already there. The other person only awakened it. If we understand this, then every painful moment in love becomes an opportunity to see ourselves more clearly. Instead of asking, why are they doing this to me? We might ask, what wound in me is being revealed right now, and how can I hold it with compassion? The one we love is not only our companion in joy, they are also our companion in healing. Consider the story of Rachel, a young woman from California. As a child, She often felt ignored by her parents, left alone in her room when they were busy. Years later, in her relationship with Alex, these old wounds resurfaced. Whenever Alex came home late or seemed distracted, Rachel felt not just disappointment but a crushing sense of abandonment. At first she accused him, saying he didn't care, but with the help of therapy, Rachel began to see that Alex was not the source of her wound. He had simply triggered it. Slowly, she learned to sit with that feeling, to comfort the little girl inside her who once felt unseen. And as she did, her relationship with Alex transformed. Instead of blaming him, she began to share her fears honestly. Alex, in turn, listened and reassured her. Their love deepened, not because the wounds disappeared, but because they chose to face them together. This brings us to the sixth lesson, one that requires extraordinary courage. Love is never safe. To open your heart is to risk loss. To let someone close is to invite both joy and pain. Jung believed that real love demands vulnerability, and vulnerability always carries the possibility of being hurt. But without this risk, love is not alive. Many people protect themselves by building walls around their hearts. They keep relationships shallow, avoiding true intimacy in order to stay safe. But safety is not the same as fulfillment. A walled heart may avoid pain, but it also misses the deep connection it longs for. Courage is the price of intimacy, and the bravest act we can make is to love even when fear whispers that we should not. Sarah, a teacher from California, knew this struggle well. After a painful divorce, she decided she would never let anyone close again. She dated casually, but never allowed herself to trust. Deep down, she feared that love would only end in betrayal. Then she met Michael. His kindness stirred something in her that she had buried long ago. At first, she pushed him away, convincing herself it was safer to be alone. But slowly, Sarah realized that her fear was ruling her life. One evening, sitting across from Michael, she chose to speak honestly. She told him about her divorce, her fears, her walls. She expected him to walk away, but he didn't. Instead, he listened and simply said, "Thank you for trusting me." That moment changed everything. Sarah chose courage over fear, and from that choice, love began to grow again. Jung's wisdom reminds us that love always requires this step into the unknown. We cannot predict whether it will last, whether it will end in joy or heartbreak. But to refuse love out of fear is to refuse one of the most transformative forces in life. To love is to risk. But without the risk, the magic of love never appears. The seventh lesson takes us to the heart of Jung's psychology. Love is always a mirror of the relationship we have with ourselves. At the deepest level, every bond we form with another person reflects the state of our own soul. If we neglect ourselves, if we constantly abandon our own needs, then no amount of affection from outside will ever feel like enough. If we betray ourselves, even the closest love will feel distant. But when we return to ourselves, when we nurture body, mind, and spirit, love begins to change shape. It becomes freedom. It is no longer a desperate attempt to be completed by someone else. It is the joy of sharing the wholeness we already carry within. Jennifer, a nurse from Chicago, learned this lesson in a very real way. For years, she poured herself into others. She worked long hours at the hospital, stayed late to cover for colleagues, and put her partner's needs above her own. Outwardly, she looked selfless, but inside she was drained and resentful. It wasn't until Jennifer began to practice self-care that things changed. She started journaling, carving out quiet time, and saying no when she was exhausted. To her surprise, her relationships improved. Her partner didn't feel rejected. He felt closer to her because she was no longer giving from emptiness, but from abundance. Have you ever given so much to others that you nearly forgot yourself? And if you did, what shifted when you finally returned to caring for your own heart? This is the seventh lesson of love. The relationship you build with yourself sets the foundation for every other connection in your life. When you treat yourself with respect and compassion, you invite others to do the same. The eighth lesson is more mysterious, but no less powerful. Love is also a spiritual teacher. Jung often spoke of love not only in psychological terms, but as one of the most sacred forces of human existence. It humbles us. It teaches us patience, compassion, and forgiveness. It takes ordinary daily life and transforms it into a spiritual path. To love deeply is to be confronted with questions larger than ourselves. Why are we here? What is the meaning of union between two souls? What does it mean to give and to receive without losing ourselves? Every embrace, Jung suggested, can be an initiation. Every heartbreak, a teaching. Every ordinary day shared with another person can become a temple. John and Mary, a retired couple living in Florida, discovered this truth after 40 years of marriage. They admitted their life together was never perfect. They had survived financial struggles, serious illness, and even betrayals that once threatened to end it all. But looking back, they both said that the challenges themselves had been their teacher. Mary, with quiet conviction, once told a friend, "Love taught me patience more than any book ever could. It taught me forgiveness in ways no sermon ever prepared me for. Through him, through us, I discovered compassion." This is the eighth lesson. Love is not only about happiness, it is about transformation. It forces us to grow, to expand, to let go of pride, and to practice virtues we might never otherwise develop. For Jung, love was one of the most direct spiritual paths, precisely because it takes place in the messy, beautiful reality of everyday life. Think about your own journey. Has love ever humbled you, teaching you lessons you never expected to learn? Did it push you toward forgiveness when you thought you could never forgive? Did it show you strength when you felt weak? These are not accidents. They are the work of love as a teacher. The ninth lesson takes us into Jung's teaching about the inner other. He believed that within every man lives an inner feminine image, the anima, and within every woman lives an inner masculine image, in the animus. These inner figures often appear most vividly in the people we fall in love with. When we meet someone who stirs our heart, we may not only be seeing them, but also meeting the hidden qualities within ourselves. A man may project his longing for tenderness and sensitivity onto a woman, while a woman may project her yearning for clarity and strength onto a man. This is why the experience of love often feels larger than life, because we are encountering our unconscious through another human being. But when we leave these projections unexamined, they can distort reality. We may place impossible expectations on our partner, turning them into an idealized savior or later resenting them as a disappointment. Jung taught that the task is to withdraw these projections and integrate them. A man must learn to embrace his own tenderness and emotions, not just rely on his partner to carry them. A woman must cultivate her own courage and voice rather than expecting her partner to embody them for her. When we do this, we begin to see our partner as they are, not a fantasy, not an enemy, but a real human soul with both light and shadow. Michael, an engineer from Seattle, lived this lesson. For years, he expected his wife to provide all the warmth in their marriage while he remained emotionally distant. In time, she grew resentful, exhausted by carrying the weight of intimacy alone. Therapy helped Michael see that he had projected his anima, his own capacity for tenderness, entirely onto her. As he began to reclaim it, expressing affection himself and sharing his fears openly, the marriage changed. His wife told him, "For the first time, I feel like I have a true partner." And now ask yourself, have you ever found yourself expecting a partner to carry qualities that you had not yet embraced in yourself? How different might love feel if you began to bring those qualities home to your own heart? The 10th lesson is perhaps the most difficult of all. Love calls us to let go. Not every love is meant to last forever. Some relationships enter our lives to awaken us, to shape us, and then to end. Yet we often cling, believing that holding tighter will preserve what is already gone. But to let go does not mean to stop loving. It means to release with grace, to allow love to change its form, into wisdom, into memory, into strength. Jung believed that mature love is not about possession, but about blessing another soul, even if their journey no longer runs beside our own. Brian, a teacher from Boston, learned this in his own life. He loved deeply, but his marriage ended. At first, he resisted with all his strength, begging his wife to stay. Slowly, he began to see that their journey together had reached its natural close. When he finally released her, something softened in him. Today, he still speaks of her with gratitude, saying, "She is no longer my partner, but she will always be part of my life." And so the question comes back to you. Have you ever had to let go of someone you loved, and in the letting go, discovered an unexpected wisdom or strength? What did that experience teach you about love, about yourself, about life? And so we arrive at the end of these 10 lessons. What Jung offered us is not a set of rules, but a deeper way of seeing that love is a mirror, a challenge, a teacher, and perhaps the most powerful path of transformation. Love will wound us and heal us, humble us and strengthen us. It will call us to face the shadow, to discover our courage, to return home to ourselves, and sometimes to release with grace. As you reflect on these lessons, ask yourself, which one spoke to you most clearly today? Was it the reminder that love mirrors our hidden wounds, the courage to open your heart again, the call to honor boundaries, or the wisdom to let go? Each of us carries our own story, and in sharing them, we discover we are not alone. If these reflections have touched you, I invite you to stay connected. Subscribe to this channel so you can continue exploring Jung's wisdom, psychology, and the hidden truths of the human heart. And if you feel moved, share a piece of your own journey in the comments. Your voice matters, and together we can turn these lessons into a living conversation. May you love with courage. May you walk gently with yourself. May you bless those who walk beside you and release those who must go their own way. And above all, may love, in all its forms, lead you deeper into truth, into wholeness, and into peace.